Hi, my name is Patti Herrera and I will talk about the Cold War. The Cold War refers to the period of intense political tension between the US, with capitalist ideas, and the Soviet Union, with communist ideas. It lasted from 1945 to 1991, and it almost resulted in a nuclear disaster. There are many important events. The first one is in February 1945. It's Yalta Conference, which was a meeting between Roosevelt and Stalin to decide what would happen at the end of the war. Then, in August 1945, US dropped the first atomic bomb at Hiroshima. In April 1945, the NATO is formed, which stands to North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and is formed by Belgium, Denmark, United States, Canada, among others, and it's a system of collective defense among them. In March 1953 is Stalin's death. In August 1961 it's Berlin Wall. In July 1969 it's the Apollo 11. In March 1986 is the Chernobyl disaster, and in October of the 90s was Germany unification. In December of 1991 it was the end of the Soviet Union, which marks also the end of the Cold War. What does Cold War refers to? Well, Cold War is the intense economic, political, military, and ideological rivalry between two nations, which creates hostility and violence. It was first used by George Orwell in his article to refer what he predicts will be a nuclear disaster between two nations, and that will affect many people. So he was right. The Cold War was nuclear attack, constant nuclear attacks between the Soviet Union and USA because of his different ideas, and this affect many. So even though the USA and the Soviet Union fought together in World War II, they have always had many different political ideas. But what is capitalism and what is communism? Well, capitalism was proposed by Adam Smith in his book, The Wealth of Nations, and it focuses on individual rights, and it promotes the class distinction, the democratic government in which every individual has to work for himself to create wealth, and it has a market competition, which is privately owned, and all the profits go to this owner. In communism, it's more different. It was proposed by Karl Marx in his book The Communist Manifesto, and it focused on community rights. It promoted the equal society class, and but it's a totalitarian government in which wealth is distributed as per needs and ability. In here, there is no diversity in market, and the market it's state owned, so the profits are shared by all the people of economy. Capitalism and communism have something in common. They were both fought during the Cold War, and since they are both extreme ideas, no country has achieved pure communism or pure capitalism. But we can say also many differences among them. Capitalism focuses more on individuals, and communism focuses more on a community. In capitalism, you can own things. In communism, you share things. In capitalism, the competition is promoted, while in communism, the equality is promoted. These are some of the countries, capitalists and communists of nowadays. I interviewed my grandfather, Epifanio Roman Roman. He was born in 1952, so he is 66. I asked him what countries were the world leaders during this period. At what he answered, I remember the main problem was between the Soviet Union, which was ruled by Joseph Stalin, and the United States, which was ruled by Harry Truman. And that's true, but they were not the only ones involved. In fact, all these countries were involved in the Cold War. I also asked him, what did countries who were allies during the war become enemies afterwards? And he answered, I guess because of interest. For what I know, in World War II, USA and Soviet Union were threatened by Germany. That is why they became together, but they were not allies before. I think they have always been in some kind of trouble among them. And it was right. Germany is the Germany attacks were the only reason why Soviet Union and United States became together, because they have always have many political ideas difference among them. So they have not been in good terms before, and being threatened by the same enemy was what brought them together. I asked him, where did the Cold War take place? So he asked, I think there were many places like Afghanistan, Vietnam War, or Cuba, which I remember for Bay of Pigs, among others. And in fact, there were many places in which the Cold War was fought. Some of them are North Korea, South Korea, Iran, China, the Philippines, Cuba, Guatemala, East Germany. These are some of the attacks at the first stage of Cold War, and these are some of the last battles of Cold War, of the last year battles. Some were the last one was fought in the Soviet Union. I asked him, what opinion did the general public have of the Cold War? He answers, I remember reading about the Berlin Wall or the constant battle for reaching the space more and first by the USA and the Soviet Union, but nothing really about Cold War in here. I don't really know what other countries' opinion is, but the most involved ones, I guess they were kind of scared all the time for what could happen. In fact, Mexico was in very good terms with all the countries while the Cold War was being fought. Although Mexico decided to become a capitalist country, it has a great relationship with all the countries, the neutral ones, the capitalist, and the communist ones. In fact, in this period, Mexico developed many international relationships. What type of weapons did the two world powers have at their disposal? Of course, we have the conventional ones, knife, guns, cannon, or grenades, but the new attraction were the nuclear bombs. When US started testing their nuclear weapons, many groups tried to stop them, but it was worthless. With Hiroshima's bomb, we realized that the horrible kind of weapon will stay with us for a while. And that's what happened. The most important, or the one that it's mostly used in the Cold War, was the nuclear weapons. In my opinion, capitalism and communism have both many advantages and disadvantages. An advantage from capitalism would be you own things. And an advantage for communism is that there is no social classes. But a disadvantage of capitalism is that there are social classes, and it's very difficult to get out of it. Sometimes, even though you make an effort for it. And a disadvantage of communism is that government controls all. So, in my opinion, and for what I haven't investigated, I prefer capitalism because I think you are recognized by your effort instead of getting to try and try and try and never reach something because you can't control what is happening to you, like in communism. So I prefer capitalism, but I think it's important to know about many types of governments and societies for knowing how can we make our system and our society and others better. Here is my bibliography. Thank you for watching.